A world record book of racist stories. Yes, that is actually the name of the book. Sisters Lacey Lamar and Amber Ruffin recall their memories of racism and what they call 50-50 of silly and scary stories. Amber, who is the comedian and host of the Amber Ruffin Show, is also the first Black woman in history to ever write for late-night television on Late Night with Seth Meyers. The duo's first book, You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey, details all the racist situations that Lacey's been in. Now the sisters dive into their own experiences with racism and also through the perspectives of family and friends. Days ago, I had a chance to sit down with the two to talk about their book of racist stories. Why a book number 2? Why wasn't the first book of racist stories sufficient?
We had great stories that we wanted to put in the first one, and we didn't. And now we're like, let's do it. And I still live in Omaha, Nebraska, and these too many wild, hilarious things were happening to me. And I was like, we need another book. Plus, we wanted to add our family and people in the community.
Like your friends, your friend, MB, right? And I kind of was struck by this, right? Because you have this part in the book where you talk about how your good friend who's white, you say you guys love to trade opposite stories. Stories where I'm suffering some racist nonsense and she's getting away with everything but murder. Is there a point where you think this isn't funny, or are you able to just laugh at the difference?
It's almost always funny because I'm not learning anything new. It's the world that I've always lived in. Now there are words to it. But it's only just a specificity in a large thing that I already know to be true. And that, to me makes it hilarious.
And sometimes we're not trying to say this story is funny. Sometimes we're trying to say, look at white privilege and just look at racism in itself. Just look at it. It's still happening. Parts of it might be funny, but this stuff is true and it's happening every day.
And another part that struck me, you talk about a scenario where you're in a store and all of a sudden, the security guard starts following you and you're like, well, nothing unusual there, right? I mean, there's kind of almost an expectation, but then it's like there's 6 people in the store. This is so ridiculous, it's funny. But is there an underlying sadness?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, sure. I don't know. I don't feel that way because that's just what it is, right? I'm having trouble thinking of a comparison, but it's like, oh, this is a horrible one. But like, we all get a period. It's horrible. It's horrible.
So it's just part of life. It's just a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And that in itself is sad. See how we laugh? We're terrible. We laugh at everything. We do laugh.
We laugh at everything.
And that does, right? Laugh to keep from crying, in a way. And I'm curious, so obviously you live in Omaha, Nebraska. You live in New York City. How is racism different and the microaggressions and the passes and racism from the Midwest to the East Coast?
Here, it's good.
It's more in your face in Omaha. To the point when it does happen, I think Amber sometimes doesn't even, she's like, did that just happen? I'm like, yep, it happened. Let's keep walking. Like, yes.
When she goes to visit
When she comes to visit. And when I'm in Nebraska, when I'm in New York, I feel free. And I joke with her, I'm like, I'm free!
Yeah.
I'm running down the street. I'm in the store, I'm picking this up. No one's staring. I mean, and of course, we're not saying that there's no racism in New York. We're not saying that. But it is a shift. It is totally different. When I'm walking down the street, when I walk into a building, I don't feel that everybody's looking at you.
You're the only chip in that cookie.
Yes.
And when you are writing these books, who is your audience?
Like, our audience is always us or the people most like us. Like, when you're writing, like, some of the book is, hey, look at this stuff. This stuff happens all the time. Can you believe it? Here's a fun way to handle it. I think the audience is always Black people. It's because Black people need to hear, hey, this has happened to me, and when it happens to you, here's an option. You're not alone.
But and I also say that I have had so many white people come up to me and say, I read your book, I love it, and oh my God, I do this. And so that's the one little part that I like.
Because you dedicate the book to your family and friends and jokingly to all white people. But really, it seems that white people are picking up the book, right?
Yeah, no, they are.
And are Black people picking it up because they say, I want to commiserate on this, or because I'm wondering if people are like, I don't need to read about it. I live it every day. I see this. This is my experience.
They're like, I love it. That happened to me at work yesterday. This is happening now. And maybe I'm going to say something now.
Also, sometimes Black people are like, I read this book and frankly, I couldn't believe it.
Is it cathartic to actually write about the stories, to write out the experiences?
Yeah. It's fun to tell. Not, oh, lies. Well, I mean, some of the stories are fun to tell, but it's great to tell. It's like, I'm getting these out of here. I'm getting them off my chest. I'm putting some people on, you know, they need to know that this happened and they did that, and it does feel good to tell.
You obviously get to write about, you know, real life and make it funny every day. Do you feel that race is something that we get to talk about enough and poke enough fun with it?
I don't know, right? Because I feel like the only way we used to talk about race in, let's say, the 90s was through jokes, and that was it. Wasn't nobody dissecting anything. But then now I think everyone is doing what feels good. Like us writing down these stories is cathartic. A lot of times when people are using comedy, they're just like, what kind of laughs can I get from what? But I think people are in a phase where we are working through our stuff.
For the person who has not had the chance to read the book yet, give us like some little snippets of some of these stories.
Back when I was looking for a wedding dress for my wedding, we went to this boutique shop, which was like super fancy, in the fanciest place you can shop in Omaha.
Fancy shop in Omaha.
And I was like, let me see if I can find a beautiful dress for my wedding. We go in there, and the lady's like, can I help you? Do you need any, what are you looking for? I go, Lacey's like, oh, well, my sister's getting married, and we don't have wedding dresses. So now we know she doesn't want us in the store. So we both take out our little brown hands, and we get to touching. Mm-hmm. And we touch every dress.
But she also tells Amber, then she tries to convince Amber not to get married. She goes, and weddings are overrated.
Weddings are overrated.
She tried to unsell us a dress.
Amber and Lacey's book, The World Record Book of Racist Stories, is now available wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.